Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to go over a kind of a quick tip to help you navigate through the chapters as you're studying the textbook itself. Now, I do talk about this in our general study guide that you can access. You can click on that link below, and that will get you to our exam prep. But the tip here is really pretty straightforward. And I've had a number of students actually ask me, is it necessary to read the summary at the end of the chapter and the chapter highlights? Now, it's a great question. And my answer is, well, actually, depending on where you are at, depending on how much time you have to study, depending on your learning style as well, my answer to that question is yes, definitely, but do it before you even read the chapter. And I'm going to show you on the digital copy that I have. By the way, digital copy, straight copy, hard copy, it doesn't matter. But have a look over here, and I'm just showing you chapter 5. It just works out a bit easy just to show you in chapter 5 the chapter highlights. So you'll notice what NASM has done for you is they've given you a synopsis of what they think is and it's their textbook, what they think is the most important information that you can get from the chapter. You know, I've said this in pretty much every video I ever do. You've got to determine learning style and how much time you have to study before you sit for the exam. Because remember, going through the materials is going to take you ultimately to your practice exams. And then the practice exams are really where you're going to spend the majority of your time. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's sort of a strategic way of understanding how to navigate through the materials. So okay, so practice exams ultimately, because you're sitting for an exam. Now, when it comes to actually memorizing, feeling comfortable with the information, this is where your learning style comes in. For the most part, I tell everybody, read it, rewrite it, say it out loud, whatever you can draw. See, I've got these colored markers that I'll use to draw pictures. If you are a sort of visual learner, generally visual learners they like to draw pictures. They like to look at pictures. They like videos, things like that. Although everybody generally likes videos. Audiological learners for sure can read the material, and while you're rewriting it, say it out loud. That can be very helpful. I know a lot of folks that listen to the audio chapters that we have in our exam prep. But whatever the case, my suggestion here and the tip that I'm giving you in this video is go to the chapter highlights. Go to the end of the chapter first. I know what you're asking. Well, why didn't NASM, why didn't they do that? Well, the answer is they're trying to get you through material, and then they're kind of giving you a synopsis, a post-chapter sort of review. Now, they do give you a summary, as you can see here. And by the way, I'm just using chapter 5. You can use this in every chapter. One of the things about chapter 5 in particular, and this is where I had the question from a student. They were like, well, should I waste my time going through the chapter highlights? And my answer to that is actually in like a chapter 5 scenario where they're giving you a list of concepts and components of the chapter that are really very important. So the answer is yes, of course. Now, how do you deal with this? Well, pretty straightforward, just like with any other material that you're trying to engage and memorize. They gave you bullet points. Come on, how much easier can it get? Just keep in mind, the bullet point has taken material, right? It could be one sentence, two sentences, an entire paragraph, and collapsed it into a summary sentence for the most part. Now, you could, and I'm not saying don't do this, but I got a better way to do it. You could simply rewrite the entire bullet point, but I'm going to tell you that's probably a little bit inefficient. A more efficient process, and that's why I brought this up, because I want to work through this with you. A more efficient process, and it's a great technique to learn, is to summarize the summarized bullet point. Does that make sense? So here you are in chapter 5. Pick any chapter. It doesn't matter. But I'm in chapter 5. And I get to the chapter highlights. Even before I read the chapter, it's one technique. You could do the opposite and read the chapter, study through it, and then do your chapter highlights. But let's say you only have 3 weeks, 2 weeks, maybe a month to get through this textbook, right? You've gone way too long. You should have been studying, but you haven't. and now you're here. Well, go to the end of the chapter, look at your chapter highlights, and I'm going to help you here just on a couple of these to give you an idea of how you would sort of deal with a bullet point. One of the things about bullet points is that you could more than likely compress what they wrote into your own words in just a couple of words. So let's go ahead and just have a look. I'm in chapter 5. Let me help you. By the way, piece of paper, pen or pencil, always have something to write with and something to write on when you're studying. Reading is not studying. It is the beginning of the studying process. So you've got to read it, but you're going to have to rewrite it, say it out loud. And so let's just go ahead and I'll go through a couple of these with you and give you an idea of exactly how I would compress some of this information. Okay, I'm doing this on the fly, by the way. Okay, so you get to your chapter highlights, and the first bullet point says the human movement system includes an integration of the nervous, skeletal, and muscular systems. Look, put the video that you're watching on pause and try and think of a way to compress that sentence down. How could you make it really, really simple in just a couple of words that you could memorize? Okay. Okay, so how would I do it? Human movement system. This is one of the things that that you learn to do. It's a very effective skill, and that's using an equal sign, using anything that will get rid of a physical word so you don't have to memorize it. So what I would do is I would take out the, and I would just write HMS, human movement system equals. Okay, the human movement system equals nervous / skeletal, SK, and muscular, MUS. And that's my first bullet point. Let me go ahead and open this. Let me go ahead and come back here with you. Does this make sense? So I basically did, you can see that, HMS, human movement system, is the what? It's the nervous, skeletal, muscular systems. I took information. I mean, look, this is a skill that you need to develop this. It's what's going to help you get through a lot of material. And I hear it all the time. How am I going to memorize it? Well, okay, slow down, take a deep breath. Your brain can memorize it, but you got to do it in a way that makes sense to your brain. And sometimes just reading the material, that doesn't make sense to your brain. So what I like to do is I like to compress a lot of words down into a couple of words. Okay, so again, click stop, and so you can stop the video and write that down. And now go through the rest of those bullet points and see if you could compress all of those bullet points down into just a few words with some symbols that is easier for you to memorize. Okay, let's go back in there. Second one, the nervous system provides sensory and motor information. Tell me what to do. Nervous system, NS, nervous system provides sensory, afferent, and motor efferent information. Well, let me ask you a question first before you do anything else. Did you memorize what afferent means? Did you memorize what efferent means? Well, they give it to you right there. Afferent, sensory, right? So nervous system is equal to sensory. I would write the whole word, sensory, and motor info, right? See what I did? So now watch, because I want you to see how I work this. So I wrote nervous system, NS, is equal to what? Sensory and motor. But wait a minute, they had two other terms in there. And what I would do is I would write underneath AFF and EFF under the words sensory and motor. See what I did there? Underneath sensory, I put AFF. Why? Because whether you memorize the word afferent, that's not the point. You're never going to use that word ever again in your life, probably. You're not going to use afferent. You're not going to use efferent. You're not going to be talking to clients and going, okay, guys, let's go ahead and say something like, so your afferent sensory nerves are now, you're not going to say that. You're learning this, so when you see a question on the exam, what are you able to do? Afferent sensory, so sensory info back to my CNS, my central nervous system. Motor, muscular, motor, you get the idea. If I remember EFF, efferent, right, or AFF, your brain will generally know what it is you're seeing if all you memorize was it. I hope that makes sense. So you see how I did that. So let's do one more. By the way, put it on pause, do it yourself. I'm not going to go through all of them with you, but you should be able to do these things. And by the way, it's not a bad idea whether you're in the Facebook group or on the YouTube watching this. If you have a good way to do this and you get some really good concepts on here, go ahead and throw them in the comments section so that other students can see it. Okay. The neuron is the functional unit of the nervous system, the neuron. So I would just write neuron. Now you could write the entire, I would write the word because it's not like you're going to have a whole lot of words in this bullet point. Neuron equals functional unit, functional unit, NS, nervous system. Okay, you get the idea? Let me come off here. Neuron, functional unit, nervous system. You don't think you can memorize that? I know you can. You know another quick way to do it? Here's something else that'll help you. I know you think I'm crazy, but I'm not. One of the things we know from learning science is what we understand about the human brain is that if there's a additional way or added ways to navigate and connect with information that you're trying to learn, and you have multiple types of inputs, visual, auditory, physical, right, tactile, whatever, kinesthetic, as we say, use it. Go ahead and write, use your purple, right? And I can write neuron. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I don't want to use up that much paper. Sorry, you got to. So I can now do that. Neuron equals. I guarantee you'll remember it. You'll remember it better than if you just read it, because every time you read it, you have a very low retention capability. And that's kind of the idea, is that if you keep this in mind, use colors, use different size fonts, right? There's a visual acuity to that. If you have an audiological preference to your learning style, then you still have to write it. Does that make sense? You still have to write it. You read it and you rewrite it, but then you use auditory stimuli. You say it out loud. You record yourself. You watch videos and you listen to what the individual is saying, and that can help and assist with the acquisition of the information. So what is the tip then? Use that. Let me go back so you can see it again. Use the chapter highlights at the end of a chapter and do it first. And do it first, because they're giving you a whole bunch of bullet points. You get it? So use those. But now, how do we use it? Well, anytime you see bullet points, you should be honing in on the bullet points. That's the way NASM does it. And I appreciate the fact that they put lots of bullet points in the text to hone you in on that information, but don't leave it there. Take their compressed bullet point and further compress it so that you can memorize it. I hope that makes sense. Look, if you want more information or you want to access our exam prep, then just click the link below that we have in the copy section down below. Leave your comments. Let us know if these videos are helpful to you. If you have not done so, go into the Facebook group. We have our private NASM group. Lots of activity going on in there. By the way, we do a live Quizlet. study. That's sort of a combination of the NASM, and we also work with ACE, and we have our own Body Design University materials, and all of that information we throw into Quizlet. If you haven't used it, it is a great study tool. But go to the Facebook group. That's NASM Prep Groups /NASM Prep. It's in the copy down below. Just click on it, get into the Facebook group. Very helpful. And as always, please let us know how you like these videos. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet, and the notification bell. Let us know how we're doing and how we can then further assist in your studying, so we can help you to pass your NASM exam. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.